Hello, my brothers and sisters. It is Sister Mary. We are in Second Chronicles chapter 16 through chapter 20. Again, I am reading out of the Interlinear Bible. This is the Hebrew and the Aramaic translation of the Old Testament. Second Chronicles chapter 16. In the 36th year of the reign of Asa, Baasha the king of Israel came up against Judah, and he built Ramah, so as not to permit any going out and coming in to Asa the king of Judah. And Asa brought out silver and gold from the treasures of the houses of Jehovah and from the king's house. And he sent to Benhadad the king of Syria, who lived in Damascus, saying, A covenant shall be between me and you, and between my father and your father. Behold, I have sent you silver and gold. Go break your covenant with Baasha the king of Israel, and he shall go away from me. And Benhadad listened to King Asa, and sent the commanders of his armies to the cities of Israel. And they struck Ijon and Dan, and Abil Mem, and all the store cities of Naphtali. And it happened, when Baasha heard, he stopped building Ramah, and let his work rest. And Asa the king took all Judah, and they carried away the stores of Ramah, and its wood with which Baasha had built. And he built Geba and Mizpah with them. And at that time Hanani the seer came to Asa the king of Judah, and said to him, Because you leaned on the king of Syria, and you have not leaned on Jehovah your God, therefore the army of the king of Syria has escaped from your hand. Did not the Ethiopians and the Lubim become a very great army for multitude, for chariots and for horsemen? And when you leaned on Jehovah, he gave them into your hand. For the eyes of Jehovah run to and fro in all the earth, in order to be strong for those with their heart perfect toward him. You have acted foolish in this. For this reason, from now on, there shall be wars with you. And Asa was angry with the seer, and he gave him up to the house of stocks, for he was in a range with him for this. And Asa oppressed some of the people at that time. And behold, the acts of Asa, the first and the last, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Asa was diseased in his feet in the 39th year of his reign, until his disease was severe. And also in his disease he did not seek Jehovah, but among the healers. And Asa lay with his fathers, and died in the 41st year of his reign. And they buried him in his grave, which he had made for himself in the city of David, and laid him in the bed which he had filled with sweet odors and kinds of aromatic herbs, with a mixture of ointments by art. And they burned a great burning for him. Chapter 17 of 2 Chronicles. And his son Jehoshaphat reigned in his place. And he made himself strong against Israel, and he put an army in all the fenced cities in Judah, and placed command posts in the land of Judah, and in the cities of Ephraim, which his father Asa had captured. And Jehovah was with Jehoshaphat, for he walked in the first ways of his father David, and he did not seek to the Baals, for he sought to the God of his father, and he walked in his commands, and not according to the deeds of Israel. And Jehovah confirmed the kingdom in his hand, and all of Judah gave a present to Jehoshaphat. And he had riches and honor in abundance, and his heart was exalted in the ways of Jehovah. And he again removed the high places and the Asherim out of Judah. And in the 3rd year of his reign he sent for his leaders, for Ben-Hail, and for Obadiah, and for Zechariah, and for Nathaniel, and for Micaiah, in order to teach in the cities of Judah. And with them were the Levites, Shemaiah, and Nathaniah, and Zebediah, and Asahel, and Shemiramoth, and Jehonathan, and Adonijah, and Tobijah, and Tobadonijah, the Levites, and with them were Elishama and Jehoram the priest. And they taught in Judah, and with them was the book of the law of Jehovah. And they went around to all the cities of Judah and taught among the people. And the fear of Jehovah was on all the kingdoms of the land around Judah, and they did not fight with Jehoshaphat. And from they Philistines, they were bringing in a present to Jehoshaphat, and silver as tribute. Also the Arabians were bringing flocks to him, 7,700 rams, and 7,700 he goats. And Jehoshaphat went on to be greater exceedingly, and he built fortresses and store cities in Judah. And there was much work for him in the cities of Judah. And the men of war, mighty men of valor, resided in Jerusalem. And these were their numbers: for the house of their fathers of Judah, the commanders of thousands, Adnah the chief, and with him 300,000 mighty men of valor. And on his hand Jehohanan the chief, and 280,000 with him. And on his hand Armasiah the son of Zichri, who volunteered himself to Jehovah, and with him 200,000 mighty men of valor. And of Benjamin Eliada, a mighty man, and 200,000 armed men with bow and shield with him. And on his hand Jehozabad, and with him 180,000 ready for war. These waited on the king, because those whom the king put in the fortified cities in all Judah. Chapter 18 of 2 Chronicles. And Jehoshaphat had riches and honor in abundance, and contracted a marriage with Ahab. And at the end of the years he went down to Ahab to Samaria. And Ahab sacrificed sheep and oxen in abundance for him, and for the people with him. And he persuaded him to go up to Ramoth Gilead. And Ahab the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat the king of Judah, Will you go with me to Ramoth Gilead? And he said to him, As I am, so are you, and as your people, so my people, even with you in battle. And Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, Please seek the word of Jehovah today. And the king of Israel gathered the prophets, 400 men. And he said to them, Shall we go to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? And they said, Go up, and God will give it into the king's hands. And Jehoshaphat said, Is there not a prophet of Jehovah still here? And we shall seek from him. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, One man is still here, to seek Jehovah from him. But I hate him, for he does not prophesy good about me, but evil all his days. He is Micaiah, the son of Emaiah. And Jehoshaphat said, Let not the king say so. And the king of Israel called to a certain eunuch, and said, Bring Micaiah, the son of Emaiah, quickly. And the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat the king of Judah were sitting, each on his throne, clothed with robes, and they were sitting in a grain floor at the entrance of the gate of Samaria. And all the prophets were prophesying before them. And Zedekiah the son of Shenani made horns of iron for himself, and said, So says Jehovah, With these you shall push Syria until you have consumed them. And all the prophets were prophesying so, saying, Go up to Ramoth Gilead and prosper. And Jehovah has given it into the king's hand. And the messenger who had gone to call Micaiah spoke to him, saying, Behold, the words of the prophet speak with one mouth, good toward the king. And please let your word be like one of theirs, and you shall speak good. And Micaiah said, As Jehovah lives, surely that which my God says, that I shall speak. And he came to the king, and the king said to him, Micaiah, shall we go up to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? And he said, Go up and prosper, for they will be given into your hand. And the king said to him, Until many times must I adjure you that you speak nothing to me but the truth in the name of Jehovah. And he said, I have seen all Israel scattered on the mountains, as sheep that have not a shepherd. To Jehovah, let me make sure that's the right page. On the mountains, as sheep that have not a shepherd, to Jehovah said, For these no master, let them return each man to his own house in peace. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, Did I not say to you that he does not prosper good or prophesy good concerning me, but rather evil? And he said, Therefore hear the word of Jehovah. I have seen Jehovah sitting on his throne, and all of the host of the heavens standing on his right and his left. And Jehovah said, Who shall entice Ahab the king of Israel? And he shall go and fall in Ramoth Gilead. And this speaker said this, and that speaker that. And a spirit went out and stood before Jehovah and said, I will entice him. And Jehovah said, With what? And he said, I will go out and become a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, You shall entice, and also you are able. Go out and do so. And now behold, Jehovah has put a lying spirit in the mouth of these your prophets, and Jehovah has spoken evil against you. And Zedekiah the son of Shemaiah came near and struck Micaiah on the cheek, and said, Which way did the Spirit of Jehovah cross from me to speak to you? And Micaiah said, Behold, you shall see in that day when you go from one room into another to hide. And the king of Israel said, Take Micaiah and return him to Ammon, the ruler of the city, and to Joash the king's son. And you shall say, So says the king, Put this one in prison and cause him to eat the bread of pain and the water of pain until my return in peace. And Micaiah said, If you indeed return in peace, Jehovah has not spoken by me. And he said, Hear, O peoples, all of them. And the king of Israel went up, and Jehoshaphat the king of Judah to Ramoth Gilead. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and go into battle, and you put on your robes. And the king of Israel disguised himself, and they went into battle. And the king of Syria commanded the commanders of the chariots that he had, saying, You shall not fight with small or great, only with the king of Israel by himself. And it happened when the commanders of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, they said, He is the king of Israel. And they turned around to fight against him. And Jehoshaphat cried out, and Jehovah helped him, and God drew them away from him. And it happened when the commanders of the chariots saw that it was not the king of Israel, they turned away from following him. And a man drew with a bow in innocence, and struck the king of Israel between the joinings and the breastplates. And he said to the charioteer, Turn your hand, and you shall bring me out of the battle, for I have been wounded. And the battle increased on that day. And the king of Israel was made to stand in the chariot before Syria until the evening, and he died at the time of the going of the sun. 2 Chronicles chapter 19. And Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, returned to his house in peace to Jerusalem. And Jehu, the son of Hanani, the seer, went out before him and said to King Jehoshaphat, Should you help the wicked, or love those who hate Jehovah? And by this, wrath from Jehovah is against you. But good things have been found with you, for you have removed the Asherahs out of the land, and have prepared your heart to seek God. And Jehoshaphat lived in Jerusalem, and he went out again among the people, from Beersheba to the hills of Ephraim, and brought them back to Jehovah the God of their fathers. And he placed judges in the land, in all the fenced cities of Judah, for every city, and said to the judges, Watch what you are doing, for you shall not judge for man, but for Jehovah, and he is with you in the matter of judgment. And now let the fear of Jehovah be upon you. Watch and act, for there is no perverseness with Jehovah our God, nor lifting up of faces, nor taking of a bribe. And also in Jerusalem Jehoshaphat appointed from the Levites and from the priests and from the chiefs of the fathers of Israel for the judgment of Jehovah and for strife, and they returned to Jerusalem. And he charged them, saying, So shall you do in the fear of Jehovah, faithfully and with a perfect heart. And when any dispute shall come to you from your brothers who are living in their cities, between blood and blood, between law and commandment, statutes and judgments, then you shall warn them, and they shall not be guilty before Jehovah, and wrath shall not be on you and your brothers. So you shall do, and you shall not be guilty. And behold, Amariah the chief priest shall be over you for every matter of Jehovah. And Zebadiah the son of Ishmael, the ruler of the house of Judah, shall be for every matter of the king. And the Levites shall be officers before you. Be strong and act, and Jehovah shall be with the good. Chapter 20 of 2 Chronicles. And after this it happened that the sons of Moab and the sons of Ammon came in, and with them from the Ammonites, to battle against Jehoshaphat. And they came in and spoke to Jehoshaphat, saying, A great multitude has come against you from beyond the sea, from Syria, and behold, they are in Hazazon Tamar, which is En Gedi. And Jehoshaphat feared, and set his face to seek to Jehovah, and proclaimed a fast over all Judah. And Judah was gathered to inquire of Jehovah. Also they came in to seek Jehovah from all the cities of Judah. And Jehoshaphat stood in the congregation of Judah and Jerusalem, in the house of Jehovah at the front of the new court, and said, O Jehovah, the God of our fathers, are not you the God in heaven? Yea, you rule over all the kingdoms of the nations, and in your hand is power and might, and there is none able to withstand you. Are you not our God? You have driven out the inhabitants of this land from before your people Israel, and have given it to the seed of Abraham, your friend forever, and they have lived in it, and have built in it a sanctuary to you for your name, saying, If evil shall come upon us, whether sword, judgment, or pestilence, and famine, we shall stand before this house and before you. For your name is in this house, and shall cry to you out of our distress, and you shall hear and save. And now behold, the sons of Ammon and Moab and Mount Seir, whom you did not allow Israel to go against, when they came out of the land of Egypt, for they turned away from them and did not destroy them. Yea, behold, they are repaying us by coming in to drive us out of your possession, that you have caused us to possess. O our God, shall you not execute judgment upon them? For there is no power in us before this great multitude that has come up against us, and we do not know what we shall do, but our eyes are on you. And all Judah was standing before Jehovah, and their infants, and their wives, and their sons. And on Jehaziel, the son of Zechariah, the son of Benani, the son of Jeiel, the son of Mattaniah, the Levite, of the sons of Asaph, the Spirit of Jehovah come on him in the midst of the congregation. And he said, Listen, all Judah, and inhabitants of Jerusalem, the king and King Jehoshaphat. So says Jehovah to you, You shall not fear, nor be afraid of the face of this great multitude, for the battle is not yours, but God's. Tomorrow go down against them. Behold, they are coming up by the ascent of Ziz. And you shall find them in the end of the valley, at the front of the wilderness of Jeruel. You shall not fight in this, station yourselves. Stand and see the salvation of Jehovah with you. O Judah and Jerusalem, do not be afraid nor fear. Tomorrow go out before them, and Jehovah shall be with you. Jehoshaphat bowed his face to the earth, and all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem fell down before Jehovah to bow themselves to Jehovah. And the Levites of the sons of the Kohathites and of the sons of the Korhites rose to give praise to Jehovah the God of Israel with a loud voice on high. And they rose early in the morning and went out to the wilderness of Tekoa. And as they went out, Jehoshaphat stood and said, Hear me, O Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Believe in Jehovah your God and be steadfast. Believe in his prophets and prosper. And he consulted with the people and appointed singers to Jehovah, and those giving praise to the glory of holiness, when going out before those arms, and said, Give thanks to Jehovah, for his mercy endures forever. And at the time they began with singing and praise. Jehovah set ambushes against the sons of Ammon, Moab, and Mount Seir, that had come against Judah, and they were smitten. And the sons of Ammon stood up, and Moab against the people of Mount Seir, to devote and destroy. And when they finished with the inhabitants of Seir, they helped each man against his neighbor to destroy. And when Judah had come to the watchtower, to the wilderness, then they looked toward the multitude, and behold, they were dead bodies fallen to the earth, and there was no survivor. And Jehoshaphat and his people came to seize the plunder, and they found among them in abundance both riches and valuable things on the corpses. And they stripped off for themselves until there was no carrying it. And they were 3 days plundering the spoil, for it was much. And on the 4th day they gathered at the valley of Blessing, for they blessed Jehovah there. On account of this they have called the name of that place the valley of Blessing to this day. And they returned, every man of Judah and Jerusalem, and Jehoshaphat at their head, to go back to Jerusalem with joy, for Jehovah had made them rejoice over their enemies. And they entered Jerusalem with harps, and with lyres, and with trumpets, to the house of Jehovah. And there was a fear of God on all the kingdoms of the lands where they heard that Jehovah had fought with the enemies of Israel. And the kingdom of Jehoshaphat was quiet, and his God gave him rest all around. And Jehoshaphat was king over Judah, 35 years old when he began to reign. And he reigned 25 years in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Azubah, the daughter of Shilhi. And he walked in the way of his father Asa, and did not turn aside from it, to do that which was right in the eyes of Jehovah. Only the high places were not removed, and the people still had not settled in their hearts. For the God of their fathers, and the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat, the first and the last, behold, they are written in the words of Jehu the son of Hanani, which were taken up in the book of Kings of Israel. And after this, Jehoshaphat the king of Judah joined himself with Ahaziah, the king of Israel. He did wickedly to do so, and he joined himself with him to make ships to go to Tarshish. And they made the ships in Ezion Geber, and Eleazar, the son of Dodavah of Marashah, prophesied against Jehoshaphat, saying, Because you have joined yourself with Ahaziah, Jehovah has broken your works. And the ships were broken, so that they did not hold to go to Tarshish.